So our first panel today is about the myriad incentives that the state of Louisiana offers to promote our entertainment industry. And we have Chris Stelly, the executive director of the Louisiana Department of Entertainment Industry Development. Is that it?
Our Louisiana Entertainment for short.
That one. And Phillip Mann, who works with Chris and is in charge of the sound recording and live music. Any other?
Comedy.
That's enough.
Okay. And so they can explain how the tax credit program works. Michael Frisch, who is a music attorney based in New York City, friend of the foundation, friend of Jazz Fest, been here many times, was a speaker for us last year as well, has agreed to moderate this panel. So just so you know, I do have the louisianaentertainment.gov website here. If you want to refer to it, just come over and start messing around. Kurt will pop it up on the screen.
Perfect.
We got 30 minutes. Go.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for a nice, solid turnout to start the day. We were just talking about these programs back there, and I learned a lot in the last 20 minutes, so I think we can give you some useful information. I think, by show of hands, how many of you are recording artists or somehow affiliated with the recording process in New Orleans? I think we're going to focus on that for the most part. I think some of you, or all of you, probably know that the film incentive program has been a big boon to the city, and they've taken some of that model and they've focused it on the recorded music to build up that sector. So how long has the program been around?
The programs started with the film program in 2002. In 2005, the legislature adopted a sound recording program as well as a digital interactive media program. And then in 2007, we adopted the live performance infrastructure and production program. So Louisiana has kind of been the industry leader in all things entertainment incentive related. So you guys can be very proud of your state in that we are absolutely the leaders in all things entertainment, especially entertainment-based incentives. We've just on the film side, I'm not going to throw too many numbers out at you guys, but we've seen in 2013 over $800 million in direct in-state spending in that program alone. And from that program, we've been able to, it's kind of acted as a catalyst for us to be able to adopt these other programs, and we are absolutely replicating the success in the sound recording and the live performance industries here in New Orleans specifically, but also around the state. So we're doing a lot on that end, and hopefully you guys have seen the Sanger Theater, the Joy, the Civic. What else? I mean, you name it. We've had a small piece of those live performance venues and theaters coming around. Esplanade Studios around the corner here has also been a vital part of our infrastructure in growing the sound recording aspect and live performance aspects of our entertainment industries.
Okay, and so do you want to perhaps just talk about how the recorded music credit works, what you need to do to get started?
Sure. Phillip?
Threshold issues?
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
So the sound recording tax incentive program, actually, while it's referred to as a tax incentive, it's actually a rebate program. It's a direct rebate program. In other words, the state will cut you a check at the end of this process. One of the issues that we saw with the sound recording program in the past couple of years is that the minimum expenditure that was required by the state to qualify for the program was $15,000. And while that may not be a large amount for bands that are signed to labels and have a lot of label support and those kinds of things, we recognize that especially for local artists, New Orleans artists, Louisiana artists, indie bands, that the $15,000 is a lot of money. So I think one of the best things that has happened to this program in recent months that I'm not sure everyone is aware of yet, especially recording artists, is that the minimum expenditure has been lowered to $5,000 for Louisiana residents. Now, one caveat there. That's not something that we were able to do in a discretionary fashion. In other words, we couldn't say, let's lower it to $2,500. It's actually the legislature that makes these sorts of determinations. So that's another thing to point out as we're discussing some of these things, that while we try to do everything that we can to make these programs user-friendly, to make them easy to use, to make them smooth from an administrative standpoint, we are indeed administering statutes that are drafted by the state legislature. But as a general overview with the sound recording program, pretty much everything that you could imagine that is directly related to making a sound recording, as long as the work takes place in the state of Louisiana, can qualify. We're talking studio time, we're talking paying the musicians, we're talking mixing, we're talking mastering, we're talking producers, we're talking composers, we're talking catering fees, we're talking hotel and airfare, as long as it's booked through a Louisiana travel agency. So there is really, I would say, a wide swath of expenditures that we can capture that relate to making sound recordings in the state of Louisiana. I mean, I don't want to get, unless it's the kind of stuff you want to hear, I don't want to get wildly technical about all of the aspects of it, because frankly, it is not wildly technical. It's a very, very simple process. I have had people come up to me and say, this is too administratively cumbersome, we can't figure this out. So our goal, not only here today, but our goal always, is to make sure that we can make it easy for people to use.
And if you guys are already recording and not getting the advantage of the incentive, then you're just leaving money on the table.
That's right.
That's about as easy as we can make it. If you're spending $5,000 and you're a local musician, I mean, this is one program that is really geared towards attracting locals and getting our local musicians out to the world, exported to the rest of the world, which they already are, but this is really to encourage more of that activity, rather than having Dr. John or somebody galactic or whoever recording in New York or LA. We want those guys to record
Dr.
here.
John did his new record
and
here in New Orleans,
boom,
so that's because of the program.
Right.
So the idea of getting a check at the end of it, even for money that you've already spent, I mean, that's obviously enticing. You can put that into touring or,
It's just,
so I do think it's worth spending a couple minutes just talking about the rudimentary, how do you sign up, what, the process of.
Sure. So if you go to, do you want to?
I'll go
Do you
man.
want to hop on the website? Or
I will
or do you
man.
want me to
Why
do it?
don't you man the site and just kind of walk people through the
sure.
site? We're trying to. We made this website as user friendly as possible, and I hope you guys have seen it. LouisianaEntertainment.gov. Can someone show Phillip how to? Oh, there it is. It's up. Yep.
All right. So
We don't deal in
This is the landing page
Mac.
for LouisianaEntertainment.gov. And anyone stop me if you have any questions. So I clicked on the music link at the very, very top of the page. So Louisiana Music, this is the landing page for the incentive program for the sound recording. So top left, if you go to Why Record Here and click there, the next page will come up. There it is. Okay, so this is the overview of the program. You see overview, incentives, apply, regulations. What you're going to have here is what I would consider brief but sufficient discussion of what the program is, what it incentivizes.
This is the meat. This is all you really need to access everything that you could possibly want with the incentives.
The incentives page shows all of the different eligibility, what is eligible for the tax credit for the rebate program, the percentages. I think the most useful link for us would be right here, though. This is how you apply to the program. You'll see, let's click on this. I'll show you how easy it is. It's a one-page application. We ask for very, very basic information. We also ask for, how do you scroll the page down? Anyone?
We're PC based, sorry.
Yeah.
Mac, what?
Anyway, I don't want to waste too much time, but I did want you guys to see.
Can somebody help us? No.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Not one, two.
All right. Okay. Here's the application. Let's go back to that. Two finger. There we go.
All right.
Thank you. Yes, I know. Make jokes about state employees. Go ahead. Go ahead. I can handle it. You would think that they would give us like the most recent technology, but I'll leave that one alone.
It's 2012 technology.
Yeah. So you see, there's the first page. We need the dates that you're making the recording, the name of the studio, the address of the studio.
And so
And this is stuff you should already know. I mean, you should know where you're recording.
Do you need to do this before you start, or can you do it?
That's a very, very good question. So there used to be in the program an advanced notification requirement. In other words, we need to know that you're going to be doing this before you make an application. We don't have that anymore. How shall I put this? It's ideal if you can come to us and let us know that you're going to be doing it. An email would suffice. We'll have cards up here, and I'm sure, hopefully, our emails are going to be in the packages, the Shukat packages. We like to know about it, but it's not necessary that we have a completed application before you start. That's something that's very important to say. We would like to have it because it just makes everything smoother. The only thing that causes a bit of an issue for us is that we see an application and the project happened like a year before. It's important to note that we consider these programs as incentives. We want you to use these programs to expand your business as opposed to, a subsidy. It is a rebate program, but all things can be discussed. But yes, if you've already started your project and you haven't made application yet, send us an email, talk to us, and we'll try to figure out a way to make it work. So that's the application. You see that it's very, very easy. The application, this is the page where I would spend the most time because this shows you basically every step of what happens. You make the application, you get initially certified by this office, and then number 3, this is where some people get hung up sometime. The state requires that we get a cost report or an audit for your project. Now, if a project is under $50,000, we just need a cost report. And all of the guidelines for what we require with those cost reports are right here on the website. You have to use an independent Louisiana CPA. If the project is over $50,000, you have to submit an audit. Again, I don't want to spend all of my time on this, but I tell you that it's a very, very easy, straightforward process. And then we get to the final certification. I guess this is when we get into the where's my money question. Yeah. The final certification comes from our office that we send to you saying that we've reviewed your audit, everything looks good, you're finally certified for these rebates. We send that to the Louisiana Department of Revenue, and the Louisiana Department of Revenue will cut you a check. This doesn't work like a traditional tax credit program where you have to sell the tax credits or sell them back to the state. No, it's just a check. It's a check for 25% back to you of everything that you spent on the project. So.
Since we're already at the where's my money stage, so okay, so you've filled it out. You don't need to do the audit. You just gave the cost report.
Yeah.
How long does the certification typically take?
Well, it should go faster, but I would say at the high end, 60 days. But a lot of times, sometimes we have to go back and forth asking a number of questions about certain expenditures. Again, because as I say, these are statutory programs, and we have to be certain that the money is being spent properly. But once we get an application, you'll have that initial certification within 60 days. And again, I reiterate, if you've already started your project, or if your project's going to be starting within that first 60 days after you've sent the application to us, that is completely fine.
And so you're certified, you've provided all the documents. Where's my money?
Yeah, where's my money? The cost report, how quickly it moves after you make your project has a lot to do with how quickly the CPA submits the cost report to us. But once we get the cost report, we try to turn those around in about 45 days. So to be fair, I think that you're always going to be looking. We can always do it faster, and we should do it faster, frankly. But it's an 120 to 180 day process from beginning to end.
And I know this looks like a pretty simple process, but what resources are available if you do hit a stumbling block? I know you guys are going to be available.
Us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
that's another thing that I would mention to people is that, I know that there's some people in the room that have used the program before. We have some friendly faces that we see in the office. And I say this all the time because a lot of people are like, I don't want to deal with these state people. They don't know. We don't know what's going on. We can't communicate with them. But I urge you, and again, you're going to have hopefully all of our contact information. Call us, email us, and because I think that we're considering the volume that goes through our office, Chris, you'd be the judge of this. I think we're pretty darn good at getting back to people very quickly.
One of my philosophies in overseeing the office is absolute communication and access to our office. Anybody that has tried to contact us and hadn't gotten through to one of us, Phillip, Heath, and Stephen are very accessible. It's a philosophy of mine where I am absolutely accessible. Typically, email is always the best way to get us.
And even if you
Shoot
want
an
to
email.
bitch, we're used to being
Boom.
bitched at, trust me.
Yeah.
So-
What's that?
I said, even if they want to bitch at us, we're so used to it. Just bring it on.
I mean, absolutely. There's nothing you guys can tell me that I haven't heard in a court of law, I'm sure.
And I know that we've had some clients use the program, and they're very happy with it. And I mentioned it before, but in addition to these guys,
Sit down.
the local studios, because it's a revenue generator for them, have made themselves part of the process as well. They can often help with the administrative process.
Well, that's another really good point. A lot of the studios, specifically here in New Orleans, Music Shed, obviously, unfortunately, is Piety still closed?
Piety's closed.
It is still. That's really a shame.
Yeah.
I've
Blade.
talked to some people that are interested in reopening it, so I hope that opens at some point. Blade Studios, and I mean, if you're a New Orleans artist, I know that you probably want to use a New Orleans studios, but we have great studios all over the state. Studio in the Country, which is just incredible. Blade Studios up in Shreveport. Has anyone seen this studio in Shreveport? It's just staggering. It is staggering how nice this studio is. And they're starting to get a lot of action up in that studio. It looks like Dave Matthews may be doing his next record up there. So anyway, but yeah, these studios can actually, a lot of them will act as your sort of administrator for you and help you through the paperwork process and making all the necessary filings. And so if you can't get your studio, if they're not in that business, call me and we can always suggest that people that, that's one thing that I like to say. Don't reinvent the wheel on the administrative side. There's a quick and a fast way and an efficient way to do this stuff. And so if you have questions about it and if you can't figure it out, call me. Call Chris, email us. Call him. He probably can help you too. He's an attorney after
There
all.
you go.
We won't charge you, though. I'm kidding.
Attorney fees qualify.
Louisiana residents get special deals.
That's right.
So it sounds like the only threshold is you fill out the application. There's a little bit of administrative.
Yes.
You do have to go out and get a CPA.
Yeah.
And that's privately negotiated. But assuming that there's people that work in the entertainment industry, I'm sure they know pretty much how much it's going to cost up front. So
Well, we also have a list of CPAs that do a lot of these things, and our website we have plenty of resources.
Yeah.
One thing we don't say, oh, use this guy, not this guy. That's a big no-no. But there are a lot of people that do these cost reports. And another thing I would say to you, if you have a question about how much a CPA is, well, let's say attempting to charge you, you can call me or email me and ask me if I think that that's reasonable. Because if you're doing a $5,000 project and a CPA wants $2,500, that's nonsense. So.
right, if it's below
benefit's
what
not
is
gonna
the
be there.
$50,000 threshold, then
Yeah,
you
if
then
it's
you
a
don't need an audit.
$50,000 project, if it's above 50 though, it's an audit, and that becomes more
But
significant.
below that, you're really just talking about the cost report. So
That's
really,
right.
it's just the hard cost that you're putting into the program.
That's right.
Getting a CPA, filling out the application.
Right.
And waiting for your money.
And I would also recommend, because it's very useful on the bookkeeping side and on the audit phase, I would always recommend early in the process going ahead and getting a CPA, because a good CPA is going to say, hey, while you're going through your recording process, keep track of this, this, and this, and this. Because if you wait until it's over and the CPA is like, I can't do this, I need all this stuff, it's going to be an administrative burden for you, and it's going to really slow it down.
Right,
So
I
get
guess
the CPA up front.
We skipped over that part, but
Yeah.
obviously, it's a tax program, so you need to keep your receipts and your
Right.
invoices. It's got to be papered.
And the ultimate goal, I mean, from my experience, musicians and the musician community hasn't always been focused on business. I mean, we all hear horror stories about musicians getting, I don't want to say screwed in public, but getting screwed over by the labels or by their management or by somebody. So in our ultimate goal, we want to create a thriving business aspect to the music community. Nobody does music better than Louisiana. Whether you're in New Orleans, Lafayette, Shreveport, nobody does music better. Where we want to get everybody caught up is the music business side. Nashville does music business really good. Seattle does music business good. LA, New York, of course. We want to do music business better than anybody else, and that's part of the underlying goals of these programs, is to get musicians focused on keeping those things like receipts, keeping track of your expenditures, knowing where your money is going, and that a way you can better market and promote yourself and take the savings that you earn with the tax credit program to putting it into that, to designing a really cool website, to paying iTunes to distribute your music or however. So creating a business component of that is really important for us, and hopefully it's important for the music community as well.
Y'all did do a hell of a job killing that Berman Street noise ordinance, though. That was
Right.
good for you.
Noise on Bourbon Street? I've never. Unbelievable.
All right, I mean, I think
Go.
we cut through the basics of it. Do you want to talk to the live performance or take questions?
I
Or-
think we've got, what,
Yeah,
7
let's get the
minutes?
questions.
Yeah, this was really
Okay, I think
too
there's
fast.
microphones set up if you want to jump up to the microphone.
Does the program cover home recording expenses, equipment purchases, all that, or is it in a studio only?
Well, no. That's a very, very good question. The answer is yes. However, if you're paying yourself, that is, and don't get scared away by this, that would constitute what we refer to as a related party transaction, which are permissible as long as it's fair market value. So, in other words, if you're using your home studio to record your record, and it's and it's a $100,000 project, that might give us a little scrutiny, but it really is. And again, take my card at the end because it's kind of a technical answer, but do not be discouraged or dissuaded from that at all. People have done that, and as long as it, we want you to be able to use your facilities. So now, I would urge you to use, all these great studios. But yeah, we want to make it work for you. So
That was basically part of one of two questions. The first would be, I'm assuming the CPA expenses are also rebatable?
Yes.
Through this program? That's great.
Yes.
So 25% right off the top. And second of all, can a producer who's applying for the credits include his own salary towards the production of that process?
another very good question. So the answer to that question is also yes. If it's a producer's project and the producer is funding the project and also paying himself, that would constitute a related party transaction. It's permissible, but it can only be up to 12% of the overall budget if it's a related party producer fee. Now, if it's just a producer fee and it's not a related party, then we will pay up to 20% producer fees. So producer fees, those kinds of things, producers' fees, legal fees, what in the film world would be referred to as, I guess, above the line soft costs, are permissible as long as they're within the guidelines.
So producing someone else's album 20%, producing his own album 12%?
Yes.
Loosely.
Close.
Yeah, very loosely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Do you have anything for promoters doing a show locally, using local musicians?
Yes, that's a very, very good question. That would be getting into the live performance world, the live performance production tax credit. If you look at, I'll give you a really, really good example right now. At the Civic Theater, there's a new concert series going on there that's being co-promoted by the Civic Theater and Bowery Presents out of New York City. That series, as in and of itself, because it's a debut original series for the Civic, qualifies. But something to be clear about, and it's sort of, again, this is a statutory issue. What we don't have incentives for is to just promote a show. It has to fulfill the statutory definition of an original series, a debut, a concert tour that is launching here. For example, Andrew Lloyd Webber is launching his new arena tour of Jesus Christ Superstar out of the Lakefront Arena this summer. That qualifies.
George Strait.
George Strait out of
farewell
Shreveport,
tour.
Cirque du Soleil,
Yeah.
all these. Again, it's technical and it's nuanced, so I'm happy to engage with you to directly.
It
to
sounds
give
like
you-
it's-
There's no reason not to launch out of New Orleans or
It sounds like it's more of
another
a
venue in Louisiana.
tour-based thing, not a one-off.
It's an annual event called Big Night New Orleans, and it's all local musicians.
Is it a festival?
It's a New Year's Eve party, but it's big. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
5,000 people.
I would tell you that it probably would not qualify, but I'm happy to sit down and go through all of it with you. So,
And it's a live event extravaganza,
Yes.
not a party.
Excuse me.
don't call it a party.
Don't call it a good time.
Okay, this will be the last question, and then we got to wrap it up.
Okay.
Hi, y'all. Hey, what about the cost of the musicians and the manufacturing cost of, like, say, 1,000 CDs or
Sure.
DVDs in case it's a live performance?
Musicians, yes. Manufacturing, no. And that's
Okay.
just what the statute says. So, but yeah, it's what's really, really cool. If a band goes in to, typically, a band goes in to record a record, they don't really compensate themselves, but that is, it's permissible under the program that, musicians
Should
should
bring
be.
studio musicians. in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah,
As
the
long as they're
musicians-
local.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, so I think that was our last question. I have tons of business cards, so does Chris, and so we would love to.
We'll catch you up.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, guys.
Yanking the plug. Thank you.